Here we go with lesson 9.1, the coordinate plane, and we are ready for our last chapter of the year. And this is actually the last chapter of the book for us. So we would have done every chapter in the book, and that is a blessing. You guys have worked hard, and I appreciate that. And let's see if we can now finish well. So this is pre-algebra lesson 9.1, the coordinate plane. I saved this for last because algebra 1, there's a big emphasis on the coordinate plane and graphing. And so, some years if I'm not able to get to it, then we'll hit it heavily in Algebra 1, but you guys get to get introduced to it, and that's a great thing. So lesson 9.1, the coordinate plane. All right, first off, let's start with some terminology. The coordinate plane is also called a Cartesian plane. Cartesian, Cartesan. A Cartesian plane. And I must tell you that the common name used to be Cartesian. More and more now they're starting to call it a coordinate plane, but the norm was a Cartesian plane. So they're interchangeable. Coordinate plane and Cartesian plane are interchangeable. You should know both. All right, well, the plane is broken up by two axes. A horizontal axis, which is the x-axis. So you can see that's in red on the graph there. The x-axis. All right, had to pause there for a second, so I am back. Okay, so the horizontal axis, the red one, is the x-axis. And then you have a vertical axis, and the vertical axis is the y-axis. Okay, so go ahead and label your y-axis on your Cartesian plane right here. So you got a vertical y-axis, you got a horizontal x-axis. As you can see, those two axes intersect at a point there, and I have it in blue. And that point where the axes intersect is called the origin. The origin. All right. We'll talk a little bit more about the origin in just a bit. Not only that, but notice that these two axes divide the plane into four areas. You got an area here. You don't need to put this in your notes. I'm just showing you an area there, here, and here. All right, so what's a prefix for four? What's a four-sided polygon? And hopefully you think of the word quadrilateral, quad meaning four. So this divided into four quadrants. Four quadrants. If you play any type military games, they always talk about quadrants. Right, well, it is important that you understand which quadrant is which. There are four of them, and they're labeled 1 through 4. Now, this is important. We use Roman numerals for the quadrants. You say, why? Well, I don't know. It's the way it is. All right. Somebody decided that they were going to use Roman numerals for the quadrants, and so we need to use Roman numerals. So please make sure whenever you're designating a quadrant, you need to use a Roman numeral. All right. So Roman numerals for your quadrants. So the upper right-hand quadrant is quadrant 1. The upper right-hand quadrant is quadrant 1. You say, Mr. Scarfy, we always do things from left to right. Yeah, I know. But the quadrants are really because of angles. You don't need to draw this, but normally any angle between 0 and 90 is in quadrant 1. And then the angle could open up even more. Once you go past 90, now it's in quadrant 2. And that would be like about a 130-degree angle. All right, so that's quadrant 2. Open the angle further, maybe go past, and maybe this is about 220 degrees. Now you're in the quadrant 3. And then open that thing up even further. I don't know, this is about 300 degrees. And then you're in quadrant 4. So you could see by the illustration of the angles that we go counterclockwise. So quadrant 1 is the upper right. Quadrant 2 is the upper left. Let me move this up a little. Quadrant 3 is the bottom left, and quadrant 4 is the bottom right. Again, notice proper Roman numerals, all right? You anti-Roman numeral people, you got to use those Roman numerals. All right, so 4 quadrants, quad 1, 2, 3, 4. So what do we have so far? We've got a Cartesian plane or a coordinate plane. We've got a horizontal x-axis. We've got a vertical y-axis. They intersect at a point called the origin, and they break up the plane into four quadrants. Quad 1, upper right. Quad 2, upper left. Quad 3, lower left. Quad 4, lower right. Okay, so I've got a little illustration here. Treasure Island, yeah. We've got a little treasure map here, and we're going to go through and just do a few things. You know, any map is about coordinates as well. And if I asked you, what structure do you find at the coordinates 2, 4? What would you say? What structure do you find at the coordinates 2, 4? 2, 4. Now, hopefully you thought that this house right here is at coordinates 2, 4. Say, how did you know that, Mr. Scarfy? The first coordinate is always the x value. The second coordinate is always the y value. Figure out where they intersect, and that's at that red house. So here's do the x first, 2 to the right, and then you got to go up 4, and where they intersect is those coordinates. Okay, so then knowing that, tell me what object is at coordinates 8, 5. What object is at coordinates 8, 5? And hopefully you said, hey, that's the sailboat right there, right? 8 of the x coordinate and 5 of the y coordinate. All right, something is rubbing, and you guys are probably hearing that. Let me see if I can get that fixed, okay? So 8 in the x coordinate and 5 for the y coordinate. All right. How about this? Let's do it backwards. Can you tell me the coordinates of the windmill? What are the coordinates of the windmill? All right, in case you can't find the windmill, it's right there. What are the coordinates of that windmill? What are the coordinates of the windmill? And hopefully you said 6, 2, right? 6, 2. Let's do one more. How about the brick wall? Not the brickyard, all you Indianapolis 500 fans. The brick wall. What are the coordinates of the brick wall? Brick wall right there. Remember, always give the x coordinate first, 4, the y coordinate second, 2, and the brick wall. Okay? All right, we'll talk about that again here on the second page. So go to your second page. Again, I've got the Cartesian plane there. We've got the red x-axis right here. We've got the green y-axis right there, and they're numbered. All right, they are numbered. For our help, I'm going to move this up a little to help me with these notes. Okay, points are located in the plane by a pair of ordered coordinates. Coordinates. You guys have heard the word coordinates before, whether it's locating a ship at sea or something in space or whatever. They talk about coordinates. Again, these are the x and y values. Okay, so as I just said a moment ago, the first coordinate is always the x coordinate. Go ahead and take your red and write that. First one. And by the way, let me go back a second and tell you this. The word ordered is important. It means there's a specific order to things. Now, God created with order. Who was created first, Adam or Eve? And the answer is Adam. And then Eve was created. And in God's economy, who's to be the head of the family? The man, and the wife is to be the helpmeet. That is God's design. There's an order to things. There is an order to coordinates, and you've got to keep them in the proper order. So they're an ordered pair. The order matters. Always put the x first. What is the term for each x coordinate? All right, you're going to have to learn this one. It's called an abscissa. AB, SCI, SSA. Excuse me, AB, SCI, SSA, the abscissa. So each x coordinate is an abscissa, and I'll mention that here in a moment. Take your green. The second coordinate is always the y coordinate. Now, you might say, Mr. Scarfy, how are we going to keep this straight? How in the world can I figure out which one's first and which one's second? Well, how about Do you understand why? You know what it is? How about alphabetical order, right? X comes before Y. All right, pretty easy. So the Y coordinate has two possible names. The Y coordinate can be called the ordinate, O-R-D-I-N-A-T-E, the ordinate. Notice that's the end of the word coordinate. Take off the CO for coordinate, and what do you have? Ordinate. There's also a second term, and you might remember this back when we were doing transformation of objects. We used the word image. So the second coordinate, the y coordinate, is called the ordinate or the image, either way. And notice here the point with coordinates 0, 0, right? The x, I'm going to take my red x and my red and put a red x, and my green and put a green y. What do we call the point with coordinates 0, 0? By the way, if you look at the Cartesian plane, it is right there, right? And what do we call that point? It is the origin. The origin. All right, so some terminology that you need to learn. The term coordinates is an ordered pair. X coordinates always first. Y coordinates always second. Every x coordinate is called an abscissa. And every y coordinate can be called either an ordinate or an image. And don't forget, the point with coordinates 0, 0 is called the origin. All right, let's go through and locate some points. It's pretty easy. Hopefully you won't have any trouble. It says locate each point in the Cartesian plane above. Label the point with its letter. Okay, so first off, we want to do point A, and we want to put it at 5, 2. Okay, so I have to scroll back up. You guys have your sheets in front of you. So point A is supposed to go at 5, 2. All right, so go ahead and locate the point in the Cartesian plane. Where would you put the point 5, 2? Well, hopefully you said, hey, I've got to go 5 along the x-axis and then up 2 for the y-axis. Now, you can think of it that way, or you can think of it this way. I got to go to 5 on the x, and I have to go up to 2 on the y. Where do those two lines intersect? And it's right there. You got to think of it one way or the other. I just go to 5 on the x and up to 2 on the y, put my point and my label it with point A. Okay? All right, so there's point A. How about, why don't you try point B at -3, -2? Point B, where would you put it for -3, -2? Point B at -3, -2. Remember, the first is always the x, the second is always the y. All right, I hope you went right here for point B at -3, -3 on the x, -2 on the y. Where do those two intersect? Right there at that point, right? -3, -2. All right, what's our last point? Go ahead and plot the point C at 0, -3. Point C at 0, -3. Again, put the point where the point is located and label it with the C. Point C at 0, -3. Now, hopefully you came on the y-axis and put your point right there, right? Has an x coordinate of 0 and a y coordinate of -3. Okay, 0, -3 is along the y-axis. Okay? And the other thing you're going to do is you're going to have to give the coordinates of a point, all right? So I want you to do K, and so look up at K. What are the coordinates of point K? All right, coordinates of point K. Locate it right here. What are the coordinates? Remember, the x's go first, the y second. Hopefully you said -4, 2. And notice every example for number 4. Where do you see the coordinates? What are they located within? What are they located within? And hopefully you're saying parentheses. You always put coordinates in parentheses. So parentheses, -4, comma 2, close the parentheses. All right, that's point K. Let's do point L. What are the coordinates of point L? Go ahead and pause the video if you want to do it on your own. Well, if you look, the x is -2 and the y is 0. So coordinates of L are -2, 0. Again, I'm using parentheses. I'm using a comma between the x and the y coordinate. All right, what's left? Letter P and Q. If you want to pause the video and finish them out, go ahead and do that. P is at 2, -4. 2, -4. And where's Q? What do you have for Q? I hope you have 2, 3. X value of 2 and a y value of 3. Again, Q has an x value of 2 and a y value of 3, right? Always list the x first, the abscissa, and the y second, the ordinate. All right, so watch. I want to go through and talk about abscissas and ordinates again. So watch. Let's look at number 4. Let's look at these 3 points right here, okay? So 5 is an abscissa, -3 is an abscissa, 0 is an abscissa. If you look for number 5, -4 is an abscissa, -2 is an abscissa, 2 is an abscissa in both of those instances. Okay, those are the abscissas, right? If we were to name the ordinates, 2 is an ordinate, -2 is an ordinate, -3 is an ordinate, this 2 is an ordinate, 0 is an ordinate, -4 is an ordinate, and 3 is an ordinate. All right, so what have we talked about? We've talked about a Cartesian plane, also called a coordinate plane. We talked about a horizontal axis, the x-axis. We talked about a vertical axis, the y-axis. We talked about them intersecting at a point called the origin with coordinates 0, 0. We said coordinates are an ordered set of pairs. We also said that the axes divide the plane into 4 quadrants. Quad 1, upper right, Roman numerals. Quad 2, upper left, Roman numerals. Quad 3, lower left, Roman numerals. And quad 4, lower right, Roman numerals, right? All right. Pay attention to detail. This should be an easy lesson. And don't worry about the homework. It is not for tonight. Just watch the video, take the notes, and we'll take care of the homework in class on Monday. All right. Hope you did well on your test, and I hope you have a great weekend.